Hello everyone, welcome to Helix Cloud Games. My name is Richie and this is CloudQuest, a cloud gaming show where we take a step off the critical path and do a deep dive into one particular topic. This week we're talking about Tencent and are they going to get more involved in cloud gaming in the West? To help me find out is none other than Mr. Chris.
Hello cloudy people.
Cloudy people indeed. But before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already to subscribe to the channel to find out when all of our great shows go live, such as the Sounds of Stadia podcast, where we do a deep dive into the weekly news from Google Stadia, such as our newest show, Talking the PS, where we do likewise with PlayStation Cloud Gaming news, this very show, and also our live streams and whatnot. So Chris, would you like to tell our loyal listeners just who Tencent are?
Our loyal listeners? I don't know if they're that loyal to us.
They better be.
Yeah, so Tencent, so we wanted to do a slightly different topic this week to do with cloud gaming, and I think one that's very understated is Tencent. For those who don't know who Tencent are, they're a multi-million conglomerate corporation. They're essentially the equivalent of Google in China. They have and own shares in almost anything and everything. Not even just to do with technology. It's like biomedicine, engineering. And obviously, technology is their main focal one. But I wanted to talk about today just because they launched a cloud gaming service called WeGame, and they've had that for quite some time in China. Which for me, it's kind of the equivalent to Google Play Store in the West, and they also have WeChat, which is the equivalent to WhatsApp or iMessage over there, and it's got over 1 billion users. Obviously, the side of things when it comes to Tencent being a Chinese company is that all the information is accessible by the Chinese government as well. So read into that as you wish. That won't be the focus point for today's show.
Yeah, we're not gonna dive heavy into the controversies, but they do exist, and if do your own research.
Do your own research into that one. But yeah, they were founded in 1998, and then since then they've kind of just gone on to become bigger and bigger, and they're so popular in that part of the world that we don't often see them or hear about them in the West. However, recently they've started to invest and buy shares in companies, specifically gaming companies. And what's quite interesting when you look into it, they have large shares in some of the most popular things on the planet. So they have a 40% stake in Fortnite. It's Fortnite Studio Epic Games. They outright own Riot Games, which is League of Legends fame, and a bunch of other titles as well. And as I alluded to, they had WeGame, which was their PlayStation Play Store equivalent. And in 2019, they kind of soft launched a set-up platform called Start. So Tencent Start or Start Cloud Gaming. And we haven't really heard anything about it. It launched the same time as Google Stadia did here in the West. And we've not really heard anything about it. And then they've kind of evolved. And the way the landscape is looking for cloud gaming, we've got Amazon with Amazon Luna. Naturally, they're doing their thing. Google with Stadia. We've got PlayStation Plus, or formerly known as Now. We've got Microsoft and Xbox Cloud Gaming. We've got GeForce Now and NVIDIA. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is because Tencent partnered with NVIDIA to do this tech. So Start Gaming is powered by NVIDIA GPUs, servers, everything like that. And it makes me question and wonder, will they come to the West eventually? Like, will they make a play for it?
I mean, right off the bat, it's worth mentioning that they are technically the biggest video game company on the planet. I mean, they basically are country. Like, the connections to the Chinese government pretty much says everything you need to know there. But they are the biggest video game company on the planet. So if anyone wanted to have their own dedicated cloud gaming platform, who is not a traditional platform holder like a Sony or a Microsoft or a Nintendo, Tencent they've definitely got access to the game, to a huge game library. And they own shares in everyone. Everyone from they've got shares in Ubisoft. Like they have shares in Platonic and they have shares in Discord, like Platinum Games and Bluebird Team and Don't Nod, and like they just got shared. They're one of them companies that kept coming up for us over the last 2-3 years because they kept buying bits of companies.
Yeah, like respectable companies that you know all about, and then they just slowly but surely have got little bits in them. Like outside of gaming as well, they have 10% stake in Universal Music. So that's like acts like Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga, a kind of like very small amounts owned by, I mean, not the people are owned, but their record label and stuff owns 10%. They own 5% of Tesla.
Okay.
Which is it just seems like any large business, they have, like you said, a finger in a pie somewhere. And I know that that's security concerns. I know there was a whole thing with the United States and such, and I think Huawei, another Chinese company, they were limited to having phones rolled out that had Google running on them, like Google Android, because of other concerns with 5G and information like that. But I think as a cloud game setup, it's so weird to see the parallel of, in another part of the world, Start launched the same as Stadia launched, like soft launch. And then actually a great point to mention, Richie, is in 2020, they announced that they were going to partner with TCL TVs, Hisense, and some others to bring cloud gaming to TVs. So in 2020, they also rolled out cloud gaming to televisions, which you and me remember on the Sounds of Stadia podcast talking about Google Stadia coming to LG TVs and TCL TVs. And I think we got the updates at CES every year in Vegas at the Consumer Electronics Show. And it's like, it's almost interesting, those parallels, that they do cloud gaming elsewhere. That was the Wii game, which, as I said, is almost like a perfect mirrored example of the Google Play Store. And Start is its own thing. It's got unique games. Some of the titles they have like FIFA Online, NBA 2K, a bunch of games that I can't pronounce the titles because I don't speak Chinese. But it's almost like you've seen Man in High Castle, when it's like an alternate history.
I know. I haven't actually watched it, but
it's basically just the same thing where history is playing out in a different position. And yeah, literally everything I'm reading and viewing here about Start and Tencent, it's Stadia, but in China.
Yeah.
So but it's hard also to get information on it because, funny enough, it's hard to find when you do a Google search for Tencent.
Yeah. It's because Google in China don't get along. They don't get along at all. I mean, there's two ways I can see this going. First of all, I could see this being a case of, if you want to do cloud gaming in China, you go to Tencent. Because of their links to the Chinese government and the nature of their government, I could see that being a case of a mandated thing. If you want to you bring your game to the cloud, you have to go through Tencent Start. Mm-hmm. Which then basically creates a monopoly, which makes Tencent even stronger. Mm-hmm. So I could see that being a situation. If you do know of any other cloud gaming platforms in China, let us know in the comments. I don't know of any other than Tencent. But then the biggest question I do want to ask is, what would happen if Tencent decided to launch Tencent Start in the West, in America, in Europe? What would that mean to the gaming industry?
Well, for a start, you can play Fortnite on Start in China. So that means the game's running on their tech. And remember, Tencent own 40% of Fortnite. So we have this big thing about Stadia not being able to get Fortnite. Not that I played, and we know Tim Sweeney came out and said the reasons behind it. And here we are. If they launch, I know it's on Xbox through Xbox Cloud Game and stuff now, so it's not the most craziest thing to happen. But yeah, they could just launch with Fortnite, some kind of promotion, and then a bunch of other games. And just like Stadia and the rest of it, all it needs is a speed of 20 megabits. They get themselves on smart TVs. They show a catalogue. And again, cloud gaming, the great thing about it is you're not beholden to hardware or a price. So NVIDIA are backing them up with their tech. And we know NVIDIA GeForce Now is one of the best cloud gaming things you can run out there. There's a lot of comparisons to be made. But it's kind of all comes down really to the permission. Like, would they be allowed to launch in the United States and elsewhere?
Free market capitalism? Yeah, I mean, they'd have to go through whatever regulatory stuff there is, but I couldn't see. I mean, they're a massive conglomerate that I think they have the resources to sidestep any like roadblocks. I don't think they come out called Tencent Start though.
Right.
Because I think I assume that they're smart enough to wear that the name Tencent does come with a bit of baggage in Western countries. That generally, when you hear Tencent, there's that it raises suspicion in the I think for a lot of people in the West because of their links to the Chinese government. So I could see them coming out under a different brand, or maybe they just buy something. Maybe they invest in something like Boosteroid.
Yeah, see, I think they could genuinely just launch with the name Start and drop the Tencent name from it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you'd be any the wiser. Like, I'm very curious to see if you went out to people on the street and said, have you heard of Luna? Have you heard of Stadia? Have you heard of GeForce Now? I very much think there's big members of the public who haven't, but then the app's there on the televisions now. And again, it's all about marketing and rolling this stuff out. And we've seen in the UK and other countries as well, with, as I mentioned before, mobiles. Like Apple had amazing success, Samsung, amazing success. And then over the last few years, you've seen smaller companies or like Eastern companies like Huawei, Oppo, come out with like cheaper variants. And it's just worked. And no one, again, brand association only goes so far. Different people, different generations, you don't pay as much attention to it. And I think Start could quite easily just roll out alongside Stadia and Luna and Xbox on your television, and they would garner an audience. And you know what? They would probably undercut the price to a certain degree to look more appetizing. And then before you know it, they've got a massive global audience and they build on it. And it's, again, what we keep saying about the other companies. They're bankrolled by one of the richest corporations on the planet.
Yeah, I almost think it would be like a quiet launch. Tencent are not going to come out in front of the Western press and go, we're getting into cloud gaming in your country. I think they'll launch a service. I'd imagine TVs is probably the first place to start because it's the place where it'll probably be picked up on the least, while also having like the most access to as many people as possible. If like Samsung or Sony TVs or LG TVs just start, suddenly there's this Start thing. Take the Samsung Gaming Hub. What if there was just like Start on there?
Yeah.
So people could just jump in. Oh, I'm playing Fortnite directly on my TV.
Yeah.
They haven't done a big press release. I haven't tried to rock the boat too much. They've just kind of very subtle. We're just going to launch it. It's just going to be there.
You're completely right, and one of the things that we should point out as well is their rollout of Start, unlike Stadia, they didn't have like a Chromecast equivalent. It launched on PC and Mac, and then eventually in 2020 they rolled out to certain television brands as well. So they don't quite have the stick yet. But then again, neither did Xbox.
Do they need it?
Well, that's it. Another thing, do you need the stick when you've already got smart TVs?
If there's enough smart TVs that I mean, take again Samsung Gaming Hub. It's only on the 2022 models, but it will be on every model going forward.
Yeah.
So you don't need the stick.
Yeah.
The stick. I'm someone who wants the Xbox dongle. The main reason is because I can't afford a TV anytime soon, and that means it gives me access to Game Pass on my TV. The stick bridges that gap. But if I had the money to buy a TV, I'd consider buying a Samsung TV, or if they want to send me one, I'll take it. I'll review it. And I wouldn't need the dongle. So the dongle isn't a necessity, I don't think.
It could get them into shops, though.
It could.
Again, to give a different outlook on it, remember when everyone had the smart boxes under the TV that had all the on-demand? So in the UK, we had like it was Amazon Prime, YouTube, Netflix, Disney Plus now, and there was Roku boxes, now TV boxes, and all the way was a little thing you plugged in HDMI and a little controller with like an Amazon Fire Stick. And all of a sudden, there was about 20 variations of these boxes you could get from various countries and companies. And it's like kind of just, if you just put them out there in the supermarket, people buy them, people get wind of them.
You're right, but I do think that is a shrinking market, though.
Oh,
the reason
definitely.
I think something like a Chromecast. When I got the first Chromecast, was fantastic because although I had a smart, the actual literally same TV I'm using now, it is a smart TV. But smart TVs used to be absolute garbage. The UI was terrible. It was clunky. The input delay, you'd have to press and then wait a minute for it to move over. It was just awful. It was just a bad experience.
Mm-hmm.
But now TVs are getting better and better processors than them. Smart TVs now actually just have typically have a decent UI, good experience. You even get like the magic pointer, so you have almost like a mouse pointer rather than just having to click through menus.
Yeah.
So the role of the dongle, like a Chromecast or something, I think is getting less. So I don't necessarily think that's necessary for Tencent. I mean, it'd help, but...
Yeah, there's a lot to be said. What I'd probably like to do then is just read So NVIDIA, as I said, which powers Start, NVIDIA already have a good run of things with GeForce Now and their library, or the by proxy library. And just reading kind of with their intention. So this article's back from December 2019. So remember, this is literally a month after Google Stadia launched. Tencent Games and NVIDIA today announced a collaboration to bring PC gaming in the cloud to China. NVIDIA's GPU will power Tencent's Start cloud gaming service, which began testing earlier this year. Start gives gamers access to AAA games on underpowered devices anytime, anywhere. Tencent Games intends to scale the platform to millions of gamers with an experience that is consistent with playing locally on a gaming rig. As one of the leading global platforms for game development, publishing and operations, Tencent is set to deliver amazing cloud gaming, said Senior Vice President of Gaming at NVIDIA. Combining the Tencent platform with NVIDIA's technology will provide a world-class experience for gamers everywhere. Now, reading that, there's a couple of kind of buzzwords that were in there, similar to echoing what Stadia said on stage, Phil Harrison and such. AAA games, any device, anywhere, anytime. The big difference, and what we keep going back to sometimes on Sounds of Stadia podcast, Richie, Tencent have shares in these companies. So if you want a game on your platform, it definitely helps to own a minority share because by proxy, you have a say on what happens with the game or the development or the business.
For a lot of the biggest companies involved, and they'll probably have a seat on the board. They'll have someone sat, or at least the ear of someone who has a seat on the board, so they'll have influence in these companies. And that means if they... See, I don't think we'll see a Tencent dongle. We might see a dongle that has Start on it. Maybe like an Amazon Fire Stick or something, a third party one. But it doesn't feel like Tencent's style to have their own thing. They seem, or at least the most I know about them, they seem to invest in other companies. So you might find if a third party company starts to bring out its own dongle, they just invest in them to get Start over.
Yeah, there's so many moving pieces to kind of cloud gaming.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that you can't even see. There's another article here from Bloomberg back in March 2021, so just over a year ago now. Tencent Holdings and Sony are beefing up their bet on cloud gaming by joining the latest fundraising round of Japanese venture Ubitus. Yeah. They specialize in cloud gaming tech. And yeah, both Tencent and Sony and Square Enix Holdings, because we've spoken about Square Enix, they've obviously committed to Blacknut now.
Yeah.
Is that the one we reported on last week? There's just so much. If you are able to create a startup company right now, cloud gaming seems to be the place to be in because every company out there is looking at ways to invest. And
Blacknut's one I could see Tencent investing in.
Oh yeah,
that's very much the sort of company. And rather than going, you know what, rather than going to set up servers in European and American countries, which is probably going to be legally difficult for us, we're just going to buy a company that's already done it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's like I said, it's how the other half lives. It's two sides of the same coin. Yeah. And there is a lot of coin to go around. Like, we know cloud gaming is getting bigger and better. And it's just for one, Apple. How are Apple not in, again, this could be the same story. Apple currently have the App Store. They have Apple, they have gaming. They have Apple Arcade, so they've got a subscription model. They have the Apple TV box, which is what we were just saying about. You plug the box in the TV and you've got a controller. And it works for mobile games. Great. They have the capital and the customer client base and the brand to invest in cloud gaming to some degree, and I just think it's just a moment of time before they announce what their next step is into it.
I think Apple is probably more. It's probably harder for Apple to get into cloud gaming than it is Tencent, because Apple as a company like to completely control the ecosystem and everything on it.
True.
Which means they would probably try to exert too much influence over the games that will come.
When you said that out loud, that actually sounds like Tencent, but from a more humanitarian standpoint. Well,
Tencent
they want to control and have
Tencent try to control things by buying everything. Apple go, you follow our rules, end of story, or you don't come. So I think I'm not saying that Apple couldn't do it, but I think from what I've seen of Apple and the way they go about their other tech, that I think they'd have to soften up that stance a bit to really make inroads into gaming.
It's interesting, but again, it's one of those avenues that we see all these massive corporations look at now, and we've seen like Elon Musk looking to buy Twitter and all these mergers within the games industry happening. Like
Elon Musk looks to buy Twitter, then very quickly tries to not buy Twitter, and now he's probably he's stuck with having to buy it.
Hey, and Tencent own 5% of Tesla, so
yeah,
would they own? I don't know. It's so weird, but so much money exchanges hands, and we know the video games industry is bigger than any other media industry combined. So I can't imagine these people sit on the fence, these shareholders that who make these corporate decisions and look around and go, video gaming, we're getting them that, guys? It's like, well, we're a bit late at the party. The rest of them have been doing it for 20, 30 years now. And then they go, but cloud gaming is only a few years old. We don't want to miss the second boat out the dock. Let's look into it.
I mean, going back to the whole thing, do we think Tencent would bring like Start over to the West? The more we talk, the more I'm thinking, I don't think they would. I think we'll see Tencent Start will stick to China, but I could see them investing in other cloud gaming services in the West, like your Boosteroids, like your Black Nuts. And I think that seems to be more their style. So they often feel like more of an investment company rather than a company that actually does anything really themselves outside of China.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think with the name, with their branding and the links to the Chinese government, does carry a lot of baggage.
Yeah. But does your average Joe on the street care or no?
No. But you don't know how things go in this sort of thing, because the people, if they decide, we're bringing Tencent Start to America, all the videos game press in America would be covering it, and then they'll be digging into who Tencent are, what are the controversies, more so than we have. They'll be digging deep. Who are these people? Why they're coming? What's their thing? And they do. One of the controversies is they do sell data to the Chinese government. And that is kind of a hot topic at the moment in politics. So,
do you think the gaming industry journalists would cover it more than Stadia?
Yeah.
Or equal to? I
think they would cover it more than Stadia, at least initially, because of the size of Tencent, and the controversy would probably send it's a lot of clicks.
Yeah. Be interesting to see if it did launch, how it would actually raise interest on Luna and Stadia, because you can imagine the narrative already going, oh, well, if you want to get in on cloud gaming, Microsoft, Google, the American-based companies, maybe.
But let's say if like Tencent buy shares in Blacknut, so let's buy 50%, 51% shares in Blacknut, that's probably a couple of articles from each thing, and then the gaming industry moves on. Bringing Tencent Start over, which would be effectively an equivalent move for them, is, I reckon, forces a deep dive into who Tencent are, why this company is on their own instead of just buying bits of other companies, because that's just run of the mill for Tencent now. It's just almost accepted. So it's basically would amount to the same thing for Tencent, but the way it recovered, I think, will be very different.
Be an interesting one. But looking at the time frame as well, is I don't think it would be long before we'd see those kind of moves, because as you said, with the way soft launch 2019, TVs in 2020, that means they've had another 2 years to expand. And like we've said, that Stadia's expanded to Mexico by the end of this year. Luna's hopefully going to roll out outside of the United States one day. GeForce Now is out there. Xbox is getting bigger and better.
Maybe it is Nvidia. Maybe they already have a partnership with Nvidia. Maybe they invest more heavily into Nvidia. So that's good for them for Tencent start in China, but then they get access to GeForce Now in the West.
Or they launch another Nvidia branded proposition that's more akin to Stadia or Luna, that actually has its own library. Because that's the one criticism of GeForce Now, is it's more of a utility-based thing where it's feeding off of libraries that pre-exist out there. But they have the tech, they have the apps on TVs, it's just the branding, and if you put Nvidia on it as opposed to Tencent...
Now the downside of that move, if the partner more strongly started buying up shares in Nvidia and become a really strong partnership with them, is it's not just the games industry that's paying attention to that, it's the tech industry as well.
Yeah. Chips
so you've got... So I don't know. I think I can see going forward Tencent being involved in cloud gaming in a significant way in the West. I don't think it'll be branded. I think Tencent as a company will be probably a couple of things removed from it. So on the surface, you're not aware it's Tencent.
Yeah.
Again, I think something like buying up shares in a Boosteroid or Blacknut or Utomic, or these emerging cloud gaming platforms, or maybe even Shadow.
Yeah. There's a lot
That's
to be
the
said.
sort of move I think the more likely to make.
I mean, Tencent, it's, again, to keep giving a mirror example, Tencent is equivalent to the alphabet to Google. Tencent's the overall name, but then there's subdivisions like music, gaming, television within that. And Stadia is within that umbrella again of that one, just like Start will be, Nvidia partnerships will be, and it's almost there's that many cups moving, you can't tell which is which because they just don't stand still.
I mean, here's your potential headline: Riot Games comes to Blacknut.
I mean, Riot Games just
Riot
came
Games
to
is
Microsoft with
Yeah.
The showcase announcement last week.
Oh, is Riot still owned by Tencent?
Right, yeah. I mean, 10 of the games are actually coming across, the titles. There's like 5 of them were announced.
Yeah. But you could see that sort of move. Turtle Rock, who are the, what do you call it? They are the Back for Blood guys.
Mm-hmm.
Comes to Darknut or comes to Boosteroid. That's the way I could see it going. So they're using the games companies that they own or have investments in to bring to a platform that they also have shares in. So they discreetly, they're a more stealthy approach to launching their own thing by buying one that exists and moving everything over to it. Yeah.
The cloud gaming space is just heating up. I think it's safe to say. And Tencent, whether it's indirectly or directly, I think will play a big part in it.
And I do think it could, again, like how we thought, how like the potential of Stadia, how Stadia still, in my opinion, has the ability to really shake up the gaming industry. It actually already has. Like, you could argue xCloud is the legacy of Stadia. GeForce Now, Amazon Luna, all these services, all these cloud gaming services that are merging. I take the launch of Stadia to be the start of this generation of cloud gaming. We'll look at PS Plus, that we literally launched a new show on. Talking the PS, go listen to it wherever you. I think it's on all podcast services now as well.
Yeah.
Would that exist in its current form if it wasn't for Stadia?
Who knows?
So
shout out to OnLive.
Yeah. Anyway, is there anything else you want to cover?
No, I think, again, it's hard to get all the key information because we don't have access to Start or anyone who really does have access to Start because of the nature of it's all closed off to us. Yeah. But the fact that they have shares in most companies in some way, shape or form, it's both scary but also sets a future for, I think they will be a big player in cloud gaming, whether we see it in the West or not. The population of China alone, it means there's a lot of potential for cloud gaming out there and technology, and whether that's shared practices or not, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments what you think, but that's all we have time for this week. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit that like button and let us know what else you would like to see from us, head over to our Discord server. I'm completely butchering this outro. Head over to our Discord server where you can submit topic questions. And with that, my name's been Richie.
I've been Chris.
Thank you very much for watching. Quest completed.